Let's talk about what happens when the Blood War spills onto the mortal plane through its various cults. Hello everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire, here to bring you another quick tips for DMs, this time talking about when the Blood War happens on the material plane, particularly when we're still just talking about the actions of various cults, those belonging to the Abyss and those belonging to the Nine Hells. Now, we already talked about the Nine Hells, how they tend to grow and spread, how they will try to work and endeavor to stick to the shadows and cultivate their power to subvert society or a society at large, but keep it intact so that way they can progressively inch it closer and closer to lawful evil so that it reliably stays intact and starts churning souls that go straight down to the Nine Hells to be used as fuel, fodder, and forces for the Blood War, which they continuously rage against their enemies from the infinite layers of the Abyss, as well as the celestial realms. So, when it comes to the Abyss, however, abyssal cults, and as I mentioned before, they play off of your base drives, urges, your passions. They don't seek rational thought. They don't necessarily seek they will seek a cultivation of power, but not as a means to any other end other than destruction. They're not looking to keep society intact. They're looking to tear everything down. Now, the older, more powerful demons will be able to focus on longer-term plans, and long-term in the perspective of immortal, essentially indestructible creatures unless you destroy them on their home plane. You know, a few centuries is nothing for them. That's a blink of an eye, but they'll have a hard time resisting their urges. Once they have control over a place, they'll destroy it, and if they can't, or if destroying it's not feasible for their long-term goals, they'll launch it at another town, another place, and just try to descend everything into war and barbarism. The more they can disrupt orderly structures, ordered means of conveyance, day-to-day life, operations, and just to send everything into brutal bloodshed, orgies of violence, that's what they'll do. They'll still maintain enough of a power structure to keep that going, but nothing that's really on the same level of sophistication as what a devilish cult might do. They'll focus on bringing in numbers. They won't precisely target the people for recruitment. They'll gather anyone and everyone that they can, because mob violence is every bit as effective, sometimes more effective than having a precise number of people in a constellation of patterns spread throughout society. Just a massive mob of angry people who are pissed off at the world can do a ton of damage, sometimes more so than what a person in the right position can do. Although a person in the right position can do far more damage than a whole mob can. It just depends on what exactly the situation is and what happens. And these are things that the higher-ups in each kind of cult, whether it's chaotic evil or lawful evil, those are things that they will think about, but a lawful evil cult, a cult of the Nine Hells, will think about it more and much more carefully, which makes it all the more frustrating for them when the demons actually end up winning from time to time. It's actually probably about a 50-50 split, or if it's not 50-50, it's a 60-40 split, so demons will win through the sheer weight of their numbers and the weight of numbers that they're able to draw from their mortal forces. But devils will act with tactical precision, long-term strategic goals, and have the most brilliant of maneuvers. But demons are just going to gather everything up in both fists and just launch it at you and just hit as hard as they can and take the fight straight into your teeth. And sometimes it's all that needs to happen to break the lines, hit the nerve center that's running everything, and then throw everything else into chaos. Because as other power structures fall apart, a military structure is like any other power structure. You take out the lines of communication, you take out the nerve center, nothing else is going to coordinate as well as everything stops coordinating effectively, they become easier pickings, especially if they get surrounded by those masses of demonic forces, whether they're mortal cultists or immortal demonic beings. That all will play a part into it, and this is how the Blood War ends up spilling into mortal realms. Typically, it's just the clashing of a couple of cults, relatively minor in the grand scheme of things, but these are fights that are taking place throughout all the cosmos, all of existence, on every single planet, and in so many different layers of existence, both on the Abyss, in the Nine Hells. It all spills out and plays out that way. So these individual conflicts between cults are microcosms and reflections of the larger whole. But there's certainly a lot more to cover, and of course I'm short on time today, so let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Did you like today's video? Did you dislike it? Hit those buttons either way and leave your comments and thoughts down below. And remember, if you're new here to the channel, go on down there and hit the subscribe button. But with all that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your Master of Lore and Storyteller Extraordinaire. You all have yourselves a good night.